You are listening to the Beyond the High Road podcast with Shelby Milford, episode number 116. Stay tuned. Hey guys, before I forget, the specials, the stocking stuffer of three pack, and also the hybrid, the 15 session package is going away on January 1st. It will be no more. There's payment plans for both of them. And in fact, too, if you want it split up in a different way, like 5 payments instead of 4, I can do that for you. You just have to email me. Otherwise, you can just purchase straight from the website. Tell your partner or whoever might be looking for a creative gift for you, especially your partner, because it will actually make your partner's life so much better too. Just by default. It's super convenient for the people that you're in relationship with, friendship, relationship, parents, whoever. So those are available till January 1st. No exceptions. It's the only time of the year that I extend these 2 offers. Okay?
Welcome to Beyond the High Road, a podcast dedicated to healing your heart and life following the grief of alienation. I'm your host, Shelby Milford, a twice certified life coach specializing in post-traumatic growth. If you're experiencing the effects of alienation and you're ready to heal, then this show is my love letter to you. Stay tuned.
Hello, you guys. It is a week before the holidays. I mean, I guess it is the holidays already, but it's a week before Christmas. And so if you celebrate that, this could either mean that we are in a lovely, joyous time for you, or we are in a period of ho-hum or something in between that. But given that this is a podcast about being alienated from our children, I'm going to assume the latter. And so that's why I'm bringing you today. This episode will be brought to you by Glimmers. As it always does in the days just before recording, it's like somebody from above, the universe, God, whatever you want to call, says, here you go, and drops down like little clues or Easter eggs until I get to the final topic for the week. It's usually how it goes. And so it started off with, you guys know how much of a Inside Out fan I am, right? I love the first movie, Inside Out, and I still hadn't seen Inside Out 2 until really recently. And then I needed to watch it again. And then I watched it again. And those second and third time happened Saturday and Sunday. I sat in my bed 10 o'clock at night on a Saturday watching a kid's movie. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes where I refer to the first Inside Out, I'm a huge fan of both movies now because of the way that they simplify emotions and the way that our memories work for developing kids, and being that we are the parents of children who we're not able to, sometimes we don't understand what's happening with them. Both of these movies are so comforting, I guess, in the way that I assume that all kids at some point will see it or at least hear of it, and through other kids, their influence because of movies like these will help our kids understand what's going on with them, but also too, for us to sort of understand, right? Okay. So the first Inside Out was about this girl that was probably in elementary school, and now she's in middle school, getting ready to go into high school, and puberty hit. The scene that happens inside the kiddo's mind in this movie with all of the emotions, there's this big wrecking ball that comes in. I'm not going to ruin the movie for you, but I was laughing hysterically in my bed the other night because it was so funny to me and also so obvious. It was like, of course they would make the scene exactly this way, because this is exactly what happens with a teenager when puberty hits. All of a sudden we wake up and life is like, so we're so sensitive and overstimulated and all the other emotions come in. It's just brilliant. So anyway, coming off that movie from this weekend, I have some entertaining visualizations, I guess, in my own brain about what happens during grief in our brains. And I'm going to explain that in just a minute. And then also what happens to the quote unquote positive emotions after repeated prolonged states of trauma for us. So anyway, this is not a holiday per se episode, but given the fact that we are around the holidays, when many of you will be listening to this, I think there are a lot of triggers that come up all year round for us. Like, I don't think that there's any specific time of year that is just like the time that alienated parents are mostly activated. There's so many different little cues, right? Y'all know that I don't love using the word trigger because trigger implies that we don't have control over what we do with it. It takes our agency away. When you have an overactive nervous system, you've trained yourself to scan your environment looking for threats. I remember my ex, not my daughter's father, the other one, used to accuse me when we would go out to eat at restaurants or bars. He would accuse me of having my head on a swivel because I was scanning the establishment wherever we were, looking for other people to be with, better, bigger, better deals, right? And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I would search every corner of every establishment I went to because I was looking for, I'm sure you guys know, you probably already guessed it. I was looking for my ex or his wife. I was looking for anybody that knew them. I would scan every establishment from the parking lot, from the time that I parked until I left the place. I was constantly looking. That right there is an overactive trauma response system. It's kind of hard to have fun or let loose, trust, get vulnerable, connect with those you're with when you're in that heightened state of anxiety. You know what I'm saying? So life can feel really stressful and shitty. I think that's why a lot of us spend our time thinking that we're like in this hell, that they have all the control over us because we've just come from trauma and they have taken the things that are closest to our heart. And so our mind, our body is continually scanning the area looking for any possible threats, danger. So of course, because all of our energy is going there, how could we feel free? It's like we're re-traumatizing ourselves in the moment, involuntarily, I might add, until we know that that's what we're doing, in order to avoid any further trauma, any further injury to ourselves and to our system, to our children, all the above, right? So your brain you have effectively, and the situations of your past have effectively trained your brain to live in survival mode. The word triggers are cues that signal threat and danger. A glimmer is the opposite of that. It refers to like those little tiny moments when our systems are in a place of connection and regulation, homeostasis, right? Which cues our nervous system to feel safe and at peace. The world is right again. That's what a glimmer is. And they're tiny little moments. They're not like these huge, oh my gosh, everything's changed. Look at the light at the end of the tunnel. The birds are chirping and everything's great. I mean, yeah, that can happen. That's how it starts, is with a glimmer. But a glimmer is that little like when you drink your first cup of coffee in the morning, or when you see a rainbow. I have a story for you in a second that happened yesterday, actually, speaking of rainbows. Or when you see your dog welcomes you home and their cute little wagging tail, though, and they wag their whole butt and they're, panting, their little tongue is out and they're so adorable and they're jumping up and down and they want to see you. And you're actually in the moment and you feel delighted by their excitement. That's a glimmer. A glimmer is like the little fairy, the little Tinkerbell that is sort of flying around you, dropping you little presents throughout the day. Little nuggets. There are as many as you want to find throughout the day. Glimmers can be dance parties. Your favorite song comes on in a grocery store while you're shopping. Gardening can sometimes cause you to feel glimmers. A lot of things that we're outside or sensory stuff, especially when we're using a few of them at once. Walking through nature, feeling the sun on your skin in the morning and really reveling in it. Like they're mindful moments when you have brought yourself away from the thoughts that are going on up here, the worrying about what's ahead, ruminating about what's behind. Instead, you're right in the moment and you're noticing the beauty of where you're sitting in that moment. There are little gifts from the universe, and there's so many that stare at us right in the face all throughout our day. The more that you interact with your world, the more glimmers there will be. But if you're trained to only look for the triggers, that's what you're going to find. And it's not your fault. It makes sense why you would. You've been through hell. Maybe you're still going through hell, or you know what hell feels like. Maybe you're not still there, but your body may still be more regulated for trigger than it is for glimmer, right? Many times they come naturally and there's no need to look. But if you're only primed to look for the other ones, it's going to be very hard for you to jump and see those blissful moments. So the plus side to intentionally looking for 1 or 5 glimmers a day, the more that you condition your body, prime your body to find those glimmers, the more that your body will find those glimmers, right? So the less your body will be in a state of survival, and the more it will be primed, conditioned for homeostasis, safety. And then the more that you can even that out, so that we're sort of drawing you out of that extended freeze state or hyper-aroused anxiety state, if you can draw yourself more of the glimmers, then of course, overall, your body can be exposed to more safety and things that happen in your world that seem sort of unpredictable. Instead of going towards that's going to be something bad for me, you're going to start to see what's going to be good for you instead. Because it is a knee-jerk sort of a habit reaction that you might have right now. If you tend to look for the danger or the bad or what's going to fuck up about whatever new experience that might come your way or possibility, the way that I see it, this is where it's going back to the movie. Coming from trauma, I feel like we as alienated parents, those positive emotions of joy, of delight, of bliss, of wonder, the place where possibility begins to develop. In my mind, the way that I'm picturing it now is that all of those are up in the dark corners of my mind or bound up and locked into a closet, right? Back in the day, I actually forgot what joy felt like. I even questioned have I ever been happy? Have I ever felt joy? I remember thinking that maybe I've just never known what that is. So I imagine joy in my mind, like bound up and thrown in a closet somewhere by my other negative emotions like anxiety and anger and fear and all of those. My negative emotions took over my brain, and all of the motivation and determination, the bliss and the wonder and all that stuff, those were nowhere to be seen. And the only way to coax them out and activate them again is by intentionally noticing these little tiny glimmers in your life. Not the big things, not like I'm grateful for this and I'm grateful for that. It's so difficult coming straight from the survival system to be really, truly grateful for the things that we have in our life, especially when we feel like in our minds that our life has been taken from us, right? That we have no freedom and no agency over ourselves and choice for what we do with the rest of our lives because they're holding it in their hands, the keys in their hands, right? Very, very difficult to find gratitude from that place and to feel elated about the life that was given to us, But glimmers are entirely possible, even back then for me. It's almost impossible to only feel the negative all the time. There would be, for me, back in those days, I told you guys that I had like deer for pets, essentially. I had these football teams of deer that would come to my yard every day. And they were the light of my life, the light of my day, the light of my years living there, is when the does would come into the yard and all of the fawns, and I would feed them by hand. They would leave, and then I would have the big bucks come in, right? Like 20 or 30 of them each group. It was amazing, amazing. Those were my glimmers back in the day. And I actually even think of those more like shimmers, like where it's a little bit brighter than a glimmer because it lasted for so long and it was just like my time of pure bliss. I mean, that was magical back then. I don't expect you guys to all have, wildlife coming and feeding out of your hands. This is a great example, but you can start to look for those moments in your life. So yesterday, it had rained just a little bit, and it rained in the front yard, but not in the backyard. So I went to go check and see if I needed to turn the sprinklers on. And I looked out, and right in my backyard was this huge double rainbow, right? So beautiful, so bright, amazing. What I noticed, I've never seen this before in my life, all of these fish crows coming to sit on these trees that I never really see a ton of birds sitting on. They were all sitting and facing the rainbow, and more were coming. In fact, I have a video of it, and I'll probably put one of the pictures as the cover for this episode, or I'll put it on the website, like on the podcast website. Anyway, it was so amazing because the crows were all facing the rainbow. And I thought, are they actually marveling at the rainbow right now? Like, are those crows all getting together and they were calling to each other, talking. More were coming, some on faraway trees, some on close ones. They were all congregating to marvel, like revel in the beauty of this rainbow. And I thought, well, first off, don't they see these all the time? And second off, do they see color? Do these birds see color? Come to find out that birds see ultraviolet light just as much as they see the full spectrum of colors like that we see. So they see so much better than us. So they probably trip out on rainbows. Anyway, this was a glimmer for me yesterday because I was able to notice that these birds, not just crows, there was actually some egrets and whatever else that came and sat, they were having their own glimmer. So I had a glimmer watching their glimmer and the glimmer of the rainbow. It was pretty rad. But keeping your eyes open for moments like that, little moments when you pour your coffee in the morning, when you get into your jammies at night after a long day, and you get into your cold bed, like cold pillow, and it feels so comfy, that when you put your favorite pair of socks on after a shower, petting your dog or your cat, ferret, whatever, watching birds chirp in the morning, talking to each other, the first snowfall, how the snow glistens in the sun. It's beautiful, right? Wherever you are, it's just about becoming mindful and seeing what you can see beyond your own thinking in your head. We spend so much of our time walking through life like zombies, thinking about all of this shit about the past and about what might happen in the future, right? We're either ruminating about what's happened and then catastrophizing and worrying about what's going to happen in the future. We don't even see what's right in front of us. How many times have I driven myself places and not remembered how I got there? It's because, the habit brain takes over. But what was I doing that entire time? Where was my brain? It's just really about training your brain to become more mindful and in the moment and appreciating, like literally in the moment, what's happening, the interactions that you're having. Somebody that holds the door open for you at the store or gives you a smile, they make eye contact with you and they just exude warmth. Glimmers. Those are glimmers. When you do something for somebody else, you hold the door open and they look back at you in appreciation. Glimmer. They're these little baby moments of connection to the world around us. And y'all, this is what you and I and every alienated parent is missing. The connection to the world around us. We've been isolated from not only our kids, but a lot of times from society and maybe even family. We feel locked in, closed in. Of course, it feels like jail. Of course, it feels like they're calling all the shots on you. And now they may be doing that in a lot of areas, but don't give your agency to them for things like this. You don't have to, and I know it's easier said than done, but you don't have to give your every day, every moment power over to them by thinking, ruminating about things that you can't fix in the past or what might happen ahead, what they might do based on the things that you're ruminating about in the past. Like really try to connect with the today, what's happening, who's in front of you, what's in front of you right now in this moment, what's around you. If you do celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or any of the holidays that are coming up, birthdays, especially in these moments, it's so important to connect with the now in some way instead of looking for the ways that your holiday is going to be fucked up by them. If it's going to be fucked up, it's going to be fucked up. There ain't no reason to worry about it. Just you'll get there when you can. I'm not saying that not to plan out the possibilities of like how things might pan out, but try not to live in that. Instead, every time you catch yourself stuck in what might happen, what they're going to do, what they have done, encourage yourself to move over to the possibility of glimmers in each and every moment. So sometimes that means, especially coming from what we have, that glimmers aren't just going to pop up in your home if you work from home like I do. I have trained myself to now find glimmers even here with dance parties and walking outside and getting curious about things that are outside of my brain, right? But it might mean for you that you go where the glimmers might be. So that means going and taking a walk, do some gardening. Or if you don't have a yard, you can do a little indoor garden. You don't have to spend a lot of money, some basil and a little bit of potting soil. Just get your senses going, like maybe something that has a really nice smell to it and texture. Another glimmer for me, actually, as I'm saying that, I'm looking at my kitchen window right now, and I have I have tons of this one kind of plant. They're Hoyas, they're tropical plants, but I have this one that's in particular, it was in really bad condition whenever I bought it. And now it is beyond thriving, and it's bushy and huge, and it is blooming everywhere. And the blooms smell like a mix between chocolate and like this floral fragrance. And it's mesmerizing to look at. And it's also just so satisfying because the smell comes in like these waves. It's so perfect. But that last night was a glimmer to me because I noticed the smells come out more at night. They tend to bloom at night. Anyway, I noticed that last night that there was all the blooms had opened. And that's why actually, you guys, I surround myself with all the plants that I do because I want to see the beauty around me. And these all offer me little glimmers, especially because I work inside from my house and I'm staring at my screen all the time. I surround myself with things that stimulate and inspire glimmers, So that's what I'm asking of you. So whether that's that you set like, okay, I'm going to look for one glimmer a day. Maybe it's 3 glimmers a day, especially like I said, around the holidays, if you know that you're going to either be 1 alone or 2, you're going to be with family and you think it might be stressful or quote unquote triggering. Instead of looking for the triggers or anticipating those triggers, start to anticipate the glimmers. Find your own connection instead of finding why you are isolated from and apart from in those moments. You know what I'm saying? So like, for instance, I was talking with another parent earlier today, actually. This is such a common thought and really belief that a lot of us have is I don't feel like a mom anymore is what she said. And if she's focusing on that, I mean, it makes sense. And I understand her. I had that thought for so long. And in fact, this weekend, my own experience, I had it for a brief moment and I'll explain it in a second. But when you're thinking about the reasons why I don't feel like I'm a mom, then you're going to find all the ways that you don't feel like a mom. But when you instead take that, I don't feel like a mom, understand that thought, acknowledge it, and then go, okay, it makes sense that I would think that, but how do I feel like a mom? And see how that can change and maybe cause you to start looking for the abundancy rather than looking for the scarcity, the loss. So it's just little ways that you can turn around, I don't want to say hacks, but little shifts, redirects with every negative thought that comes your way. Well, how is it that it's the opposite of that? How do I feel like an amazing mom right now? Or how do I just feel like a mom? How is that true of my life? Well, I know I had a child. I have the birth certificate to prove that, right? How else am I a mom? How am I a loving mom? Well, I can find many ways that I'm a loving mom, even from afar, Okay, last thing I'll share is that this weekend, this is just more on a personal note, but I have been spending time with this elderly lady. She's 81. And long story short, I'm just helping her out. Her grandson asked me to just go check on her and spend a half an hour with her. And I told him I would. And in fact, those half-hour visits have turned into, on my own accord, have turned into like hour and a half, 2 hours each time, because I'm really enjoying, she turns out to be a former social worker. And so we have a lot in common as far as what our interests are. And I knew that coming from where she did, she would understand what I was going through. And I never really planned on sharing it with her. But the other day she'd asked me, I want to see a picture of her. And it was such an awkward moment at first because I hadn't yet told her anything about my daughter, about Scarlett. And so all the pictures I had of her, which was like over 1,000 on my phone, were all when she was younger, And I'd already told her that she was not younger, that she was getting ready to go to college. And so I was like this moment where she was like, oh, how many pictures of her? She didn't say it, but you could see it recently. So anyway, I ended up finding a recent picture of her that I had screenshotted from Instagram from before, which triggered this whole process of me going and searching for my daughter on Instagram. I don't go on Instagram often. Y'all, once I left the lady, I went on, looked my daughter up, right? I don't often go search on social media because I don't love the way I feel and I don't love where my mind goes. I know it's there. I just don't always check. I do it once a year maybe because it causes me to wonder and then whatever. And there's things that there's nothing I can do anything about. So I just don't, right? But because she had asked me and I realized that I hadn't looked, I did. And I found out that my daughter I know where she's going to school now, like for her college. And it was bittersweet, like she's going to be going in a different state than where she is and where I am, but like actually kind of in between the two. But it was bittersweet because there was a picture of her and her dad. For a moment there, I felt further away from her, even though in everybody's eyes, when you hear that, oh, well, at least when she's 18, you'll be able to contact her and all the things, right? But to me, it almost felt like I was further away from her because I was getting the information through the internet. And then I reminded myself that it's not real. It's not real. And she looked beautiful. And I'm so proud of her that she's going to the school. And no matter what her choices are or when we connect, I trust that we will, that no matter what happens, I can feel close to her right here in my heart right now. Right here, right now. And just like if I were to draw up, I was talking to another mom about looking at photos and it depends on what you're focusing on in those photos, like older photos when you were with them. You can focus on the loss and how things aren't the same as when they were in that picture. And that would cause one of those trigger-ish moments, sad moments. Or you can focus on all the joy that you experienced with them in that moment and what you were feeling at that time in that picture. And it can cause you a whole different experience. And so I just remembered that, like, I can feel close with her without her lifting a finger, without me lifting a finger. Nothing has to change for me to have a good relationship and develop an even better relationship with my daughter. We don't have to speak at all. And I can develop a better relationship with her. I can feel closer to her. I can set my intention for myself with her. I can decide the kind of mom I'm going to be day in, day out, as if she was just with me. What I do doesn't have to depend on what she does or doesn't do. So I just wanted to share that with you. But another glimmer is my moments that I have with this 81-year-old lady on the weekends. I go see her on Saturdays or Sundays, either one, sometimes both, actually. And I have so much fun sitting with her. She's so young at heart. She's so funny, and she loves to do skincare and talk about all the things she's just such a fun spirit. I find so many little sparks of joy in each one of our conversations. She's like delightful to talk with, So I guess my suggestion there, if there even is one, is that if you aren't engaging with the people in your life because the people in your life are quote unquote triggering at this point for you, and you're having to set a boundary because you're not yet ready to go there and grow in that way. Does that make sense? Like I did it for a long time with my mom because I couldn't contain myself, wasn't there yet to be able to regulate my emotions. So instead of putting yourself around the people that you're not ready to be around in your mind, you can go and find somebody that's not any of those people. You can go volunteer at an elderly home, places like that. And maybe you won't always have the connection that me and this lady have, but you can find so many little glimmers in a place of service, right? When you're helping somebody else out. And that's exactly what I'm doing with her. And when I put that hat on, that I know that I'm there to serve her and to keep her mind busy, that's another glimmer for me. Anyway, I hope I'm making sense. Cultivating new experiences for yourself. The last thing I'm going to say, I said that already 3 times, is that last night I was watching Carpool Karaoke. Is that what it's called? And this year it was with Zane Lowe as opposed to what's his face. And I can't think of his name right now, but you know who I'm talking about. And anyway, Chappell Roan was the first, and then there was Dua Lipa and Lady Gaga were the 3. And although my favorite was surprisingly Chappell Roan, and I never really was a fan of hers until after that show, Dua Lipa said something that made me happy. She said the rule that she liked to live by is when was the last time that you did something for the first time? I've heard it a million times over, but last night it really hit me. It resonated, right? Like there's so many times when we're just going through the motions of all the things that we do throughout the day. But what if you were to just like, how can I be seeing this as if I'm doing it for the first time? And that in itself can spark the very glimmers that we're talking about right now. When was the last time that you experienced something for the first time? Everything that we do, we could experience it as if it's the first time because it's never actually the same as it was the last time if we're defining it differently, and it couldn't be the same as last time anyway because it's a different day, a different moment, a different lighting. You know what I'm saying? You can find all the differences in all of it. And it doesn't have to be that history is repeating itself. You could look at each experience as if you're creating it new. And that will produce just a domino effect of all different potential glimmers in your life. You don't have to keep going through emotions. Oh yeah, I'm just doing the same shit, different day. We do this a lot with our kids, Oh yeah, well, of course, nothing's going to change. We've been waiting around. Port's not here. Same shit. Time just goes by. But when you look at it that way, I promise you're going to keep creating nothing from it. And time will continue to go by until you decide to take the bull by its horns, basically, and choose to not depend on your past to dictate your future. So how is today the first day of your future? Because it really is, truly is, Look for those glimmers, okay? And I will talk to you next week. Okay, guys, also, too, before I forget, the specials, the stocking stuffer of 3-pack, and also the hybrid, right, of the 2, the 15-session package is going away on January 1st. It will be no more. So you have both of those packages, and it's on my website. If you go to the main site, you can just click the red banner on top. You can't miss it. To get to both of those packages, there's payment plans for both of them, okay? Affordable payment plans for either one of those. And in fact, too, if you want it split up in a different way, 5 payments instead of 4, I can do that for you. You just have to email me. Okay, just shoot me an email or message me on social media or whatever. I've been making it a habit of being better at checking my social media messages. TikTok, usually I'm on point most of the time. But anyway, so just send me a message and I will make it happen for you. Okay? Otherwise, you can just purchase straight from the website. Tell your partner or whoever might be looking for a creative gift for you, especially your partner, because it will actually make your partner's life so much better too, just by default. It's super convenient for the people that you're in relationship with, friendship, relationship, parents, whoever. So those are available till January 1st. I think it's at midnight. So basically the 31st is the last day to get those. Okay. No exceptions. It's the only time of the year that I extend these 2 offers. Okay. All right, you guys. That's all I have for you. Love you all. And I will see you next week.
Thanks so much for listening today. If you like what you're hearing and you'd like to hear more, please make sure to click subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. Also, for bite-sized clips and tips, be sure to find me on TikTok or Instagram. See you next week.